everyone. My name is Shonna Breslaw, and I'm the Philanthropy Officer for Legacy Giving at Peace Arch Hospital Foundation. Although we cannot gather together again this year, I want to take a moment to thank you for your support over the last 12 months. It has been a strange and challenging year, but I am feeling hopeful that we have turned a corner in this fight against COVID-19. I am optimistic that we will be able to meet in person again soon, and our wonderful Strawberry Social Tea will be back and better than ever in 2022. In the meantime, we have prepared a special presentation featuring our Executive Director, Stephanie Beck, who will share some insights into what the last year at Peace Arch Hospital has been like for both our medical staff and our patients. Please join me in welcoming Stephanie Beck.
Thank you. It's my privilege to share with you all of the wonderful things that have been happening in our community over the last year. And while it's been challenging for sure, there's a lot of wonderful things that have been happening at the hospital and in our community. At the very beginning of our pandemic in April 2020, we opened up the brand new Peace Arch Hospital Foundation Lodge, and we actually moved all of our residents from the Weatherby Pavilion over into the lodge during that first week of April. We also opened our brand new 15-bed hospice, and we opened our mental health unit in the lodge as well. I can't tell you that the timing was absolutely perfect for us to have been able to move these residents over into the lodge, because what it did is it freed up 2 floors of very valuable real estate in the Weatherby Pavilion, where we now have surge and overflow beds for our COVID cases in the region. So that was a very, very timely move. And it allowed Fraser Health to be able to move quickly and use those 2 floors for extra space for some of our more vulnerable patients in the region, getting them moved out of the acute centers like Surrey and Royal Columbian, where our COVID patients are being treated, and having them moved into the Weatherby Pavilion. So it was very, very timely. Of course, during this time, we also started our rapid response grants into our community. We could see very quickly that our vulnerable populations were left without services that a number of our very important organizations in our community were no longer able to provide. And they needed to have resources and help in order to get them up and running in our new Zoom world. We needed to pivot some of our mental health services so that people could access those online. We funded very worthy organizations like Seniors Come Share with their meal program for vulnerable seniors. We partnered with restaurants in our community in order to get meals into our staff. Our cafeteria was closed. Our cafeteria turned into a COVID testing center, so there was no food for our staff at the hospital. So we had a number of organizations and individuals who contributed to make sure that our staff were being fed and watered. It was a very challenging time at the beginning of the pandemic. Our foundations and many of the foundations in BC automatically became logistics and distribution centers. We had donations from all over, volunteering, things like movie trailers with washrooms and sleep rooms, because of course, we didn't know how bad the pandemic was going to get in the beginning of April. You know, there was a lot of fear from our staff. We'd been watching closely what was happening in Italy, and we didn't know how hard it was going to hit our hospitals. So the outpouring of support from our community was staggering. People wanted to donate. PPE was a huge one. Oh my goodness, so many requests for PPE, wanting to drop it off at the hospital. But as we now know, there are quality issues when it comes to PPE. You can't just accept any mask from Canadian Tire and expect that to, help our staff or protect our staff. It has to be very specific, and it has to pass certain standards. So we were all scrambling to figure out, how can we accept these generous donations for our staff and our healthcare workers while still being safe? Ultimately, after a few weeks, there was a logistics center opened up in Langley that actually collected all of the PPE that was being donated to all of the hospitals in BC, where it then would be determined whether it was appropriate for use in a hospital setting. So it was all had to be vetted through that center. but there was a lot of commotion and a lot of distribution going on in those first few months in April and May of last year. And then things kind of settled down a bit. We continued to get our rapid response grant requests into our office. Our board very generously, quickly allowed us to spend up to $500,000 to help our community manage through the pandemic. We spent about, I'd say about 230,000 in the end, just helping other organizations get their services up and running. We also funded a number of iPads. You may remember we did an iPad drive late last summer as well, because there were no visitors allowed, and there still aren't any visitors allowed in our hospitals, in our acute care settings. So we needed a way for our residents and our patients to be able to communicate with their families. So we had a number of organizations donate new iPads, and then also community members donated their iPads that they no longer used. We had them refurbished with a company that generously volunteered their support, and we got those iPads into all of the units so that our patients can communicate with their loved ones. We also held a fundraising drive last year for, I think its name is Zappy, our germ zapping robot, our UVGI robot. That was very, very timely. It uses light to destroy bacteria and viruses. And so there had been, I believe, 2 of these units that were working all over Fraser Health. And of course, there are 12 acute sites in Fraser Health. So the 2 of the units were underserving our hospitals. So we held a fundraising drive to get the remaining funds, which were generously matched by a donor in our community. So we were able to purchase the UVGI, and it has been roaming our halls and our hospital at the lodge ever since. And every time a room is vacated, that unit is brought in. And of course, the unit is cleaned by our housekeeping staff, but then it is also zapped by our light robot as well. So while this has been going on, we have continuously been working with our donors to fundraise for our OR campaign. And we are having our 5 ORs being built on top of our new emergency department. You'll see behind me here on my picture, you can see the building being built, although this picture is from last summer. So we're a lot further advanced in our build than what is pictured behind me. But if you have a chance to drive by the hospital, you can see that the external cladding and wood surfacing is now being put on the exterior, and they're also working on the finishing touches on the interior, getting the plywood up and the plaster up and the flooring down. So it's a very exciting time. We hope to have the ER, OR, and the medical device reprocessing unit, which is in the basement, open towards the end of November. And then our staff will spend about 6 to 8 weeks moving in and learning the new floor layout and the new systems that are going to be available in our OR and ER. And at that time, of course, we're hoping that all of the restrictions will have been lifted and we'll all have had our second shot, and we'll be able to tour that building with our donors and really be able to showcase all of the hard work that's gone in over the last number of years to get this building up and running. We're working on a number of initiatives in our Healthy Communities program as well. You'll recall that our Healthy Communities initiative is to make sure that we're investing in preventative health in our communities so that people really use the hospital as a last resort. We're an acute care center. We want you to be here only if you really, really have to be here. Otherwise, we want to help support organizations and programs in the community that help people stay well, healthy, live a life where they're investing in their own mental health, in their physical fitness, and in their nutrition and diet, where they're managing their chronic diseases. And really, as I mentioned, the hospital is the last resort at that point in time. So we're investing in a number of initiatives there. One of the things when we're talking about diet is we're taking a look at our very own hospital kitchen here at Peace Arch. And if you've been in the hospital, you will have probably had the food from our kitchen. And we currently have what's called a retherm kitchen. And that means that the food is brought in from another source and the tray is divided into two. One is heated up and one is cooled down. And then those are brought up to our patients. Well, we've been spoiled now because our Peace Arch Hospital Foundation Lodge has its very own production kitchen where food is made fresh on a daily basis. It's a beautiful facility. You may have seen our video recently. And the residents really have choice in what their meals look like. So because of that, we are really interested in having a look at the kitchen at Peace Arch Hospital and moving that back into a production kitchen so that meals again are made from scratch. We know how important diet is in the recovery of our patients. And so we're looking to make an investment and we're working towards redesigning and revamping our kitchen at Peace Arch Hospital. If we're going to talk about diet in the community, I think it's important that we start at home, so to speak, in our hospital. Let's just step back for a moment. I did talk a bit about our OR campaign and how we've been working diligently on that event. And I'm pleased to report that we did finish our OR campaign. We were raising $12 million in the community towards our $22 million commitment in building the brand new operating rooms. And we were successful in completing that goal in January. So we're very pleased that that project has concluded so successfully. And of course, knowing us, we're right into our next project. And our next project is focusing on our medical imaging devices in our hospital. So here we are, 14 years later since our first MRI was brought to the site. And we're now in the midst of looking at replacing that MRI. Because of course, technology marches on, whether we want it to or not. And our MRI is now considered actually by medical imaging standards quite ancient at its 14 years. So we are looking to replace our MRI. And we're also looking to replace our fluoroscopy unit and another medical imaging, digital imaging X-ray unit as well. So you'll be seeing more about that campaign in the coming months as we clarify the various pieces of equipment and the budgets around that particular fundraising campaign. So that's some exciting news for our site as well. Certainly, I've missed chatting with all of you in person over the last year at our various events. You normally would see you at multiple events throughout the year. And of course, those have all had to be canceled. We're not looking at any events really until the new year in 2022. We have set a new date for our gala again. And we'll continue on with the theme. And so we're looking forward to seeing you all either at that event or hopefully some events in the future. So thank you to the many of you who have participated in that. Please accept our heartfelt gratitude.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Stephanie. As you can see, we've had a busy year at the foundation, learning to adapt to the changes brought on by the pandemic and finding ways to connect virtually with you, our incredible donors. Our work is possible because of your gifts, and every single dollar helps to complete the circle of care in our community. That means that you, your family, and every family will have access to the best health care possible right here at home for years to come. So thank you again for your continued support and your generosity. We appreciate you. I hope you all are staying safe and enjoy the nice weather. If you have any questions about leaving a legacy gift, please do not hesitate to contact me personally. I would love to chat. I can be reached at 604-535-4520, and we have included the number on the screen below. Have a wonderful summer, everyone.